Our last presentation for the session will be presented by Gino Executive Director of Askari Metals Limited. Gino is the Executive Director and founder of Askari Metals Limited, with more than 12 years' experience working in mineral exploration and mining sectors across Australia, Africa and North America. Gino's highly experienced management team have launched targeted exploration activity at the company's flagship lithium project in Namibia, which is known for its highly mineralised spodumene-rich pegmatite belt. Closer to home, Askari has also built a high-quality portfolio of battery and critical mineral assets across Australia to help fuel the surging global demand. Thanks, Gino.
Thank you, and thanks very much for the opportunity to speak today to Africa Down Under as well. So, as the introduction said, I'm presenting on Askari Metals, and we're a relatively new entrant into Namibia, having only just acquired our projects in October last year. But one of the things that is the main takeaway from the presentation today is that we're a very aggressive company. Our first asset, which we acquired in Namibia, was signed in October of last year, and our second acquisition was as soon thereafter in December. Now, the reason why we elected to invest in Namibia, and particularly in the lithium space, and it kind of complements the discussions we've had today and what we've heard as far as the region is concerned. But Namibia is very well endowed from a mineralised perspective. Where we are operating is in the Weiss Cape Cross pegmatite belt, which is in the central western part of Namibia. But it's an area that's known for its historic production and targeted mostly for its tin and tantalum historic production, given that you've got the Weiss tin mine that's been operating under Iskor since, well, previously with Iskor since the 1980s. It's also an area that has really been vastly underexplored from a critical and battery metals perspective. Areas where they've got shallow concealed cover, as you've heard from Bruce, is usually areas where those hidden deposits and those discoveries are certainly made, but were very much characteristically overlooked by historical explorers. That's where companies such as Askari, utilising modern techniques such as geophysics, are able to make a real difference in terms of identifying those hidden deposits and really unlock the true value of these regions. Now, I mentioned earlier the Weiss tin mine. It's owned by Andrada Mining, so they're an AIM-listed company, and our projects straddle borders with those with their assets. Not only with the Weiss mine itself, which is 2.5 kilometres from our flagship project, but also their Spodumene Hill discovery, which is sandwiched in between our licences as well, as I'll show you on a more regional scale map. But as I said, we're a very aggressive exploration company. We've drilled to date just shy of 10,000 metres, 173 drill holes, as I'm sure most of my esteemed colleagues here are waiting for assay results from the laboratory as what we are. But early indications certainly demonstrate that we are exploring in the right mineralised belts. We're operating and exploring pegmatites, which are your characteristic LCT type pegmatites. They're very spodumene rich with trace elements of petalite as well, which is again characteristic of that Irongo region there where we're operating. Some of the mapping work that we did shortly after acquisition identified not just high-grade lithium mineralisation above 3% Li2O, but very high-grade tin, tantalum and rubidium. So what we look to try and develop there at Weiss is obviously focus is on lithium, but obviously paying attention to those critical element byproducts is something that I think from an economic perspective is going to determine sort of a different advantage as far as economic viability is concerned. We've built a significant team in country. We've got 5 geologists, including a PhD pegmatite geologist that's joined the team just recently. We've also got a geophysicist on site as well. The advantage, of course, of building a strong team with Namibian in-country presence is that clearly you're able to get a lot more done, access to more information, more data, retain those key relationships with all the levels of ministry at the MME as well as with the government. And one of the things that you've heard with the other key speakers is, of course, your country manager is the key to making sure that you remain sort of very much in focus and relevant to the community as well. At a board level, we've got a strong technical skill set behind us as well. We're very focused from an ESG perspective. One of the things that we're also looking at as far as the future of our project is concerned is what we can do from the green installation of power requirements. And so the benefit of operating in Namibia, of course, is that solar energy is plentiful, and then we can also then take advantage of the fact that we can be a carbon neutral lithium developer and explorer and come producer. So this is on a regional scale, so where our tenements are located. So the blue licenses are those that are held by Andrada Mining. That's the West Tin Mine is the large rectangular shape license there, and then the triangular license there is what they know as a spodumene hill. As I said, we've completed just shy of 10,000 metres of drilling. We've only received the first phase of drilling on that northern licence, which we call 7345, and on the southern licence we've completed one phase of drilling on 8535, so we're still waiting for those results as well. In addition to the drilling, we have mapped and sampled the entirety of those licence areas, and we control just over 380 square kilometres. Some of the results that you can see are sharing on screen right now. So it's not, as I said, it's not just high-grade lithium, but there's also high-grade tin, tantalum, and rubidium in the system. Now, part of the reason, as I mentioned before, for wanting to invest heavily into the lithium sector in Namibia is that it is very heavily underexplored, but it's also a case in particular that West Cape Cross Belt, it is characterised by a number of artisanal mines back in sort of the 50s, 60s, 70s, which were targeting tin mineralisation in outcropping pegmatites. And we've now sort of started to aggregate and accumulate historical information, historical reports, which has given us a really clear indication in terms of the mineralisation, that structural corridor that seems to control almost the pegmatite intrusion and the mineralisation that we're looking for as far as spodumene is concerned. In terms of infrastructure, you've heard most certainly that Namibia, it ranks, I think it's either first or second in terms of access to key infrastructure. We are within 230 kilometres from the deepwater port of Walvis Bay. That in its own right gives us a distinct advantage over many of our peers. Of course, the fact that we can then export out to North America, Europe, and as well as the Asian markets is something that we like as a company, because obviously diversification of your key customer base is critical to future success as well. High-grade lithium mineralisation is definitely the target. One of the things that you appreciate, and I've been to Namibia quite a lot just recently, having only just returned in fact, you get a real deep appreciation for the pedigree of the belt, and also a real appreciation of just the vastness of the area, but also of the amount of historical work that was undertaken in the region. And what you can see on screen is just a couple of images of some of the waste dumps from some of the old workings, and it's just really is lit with altered spodumene mineralisation. So it really gives you quite a clear insight into the mineralised structure that exists at these project areas. This lithium mineralised corridor of interest, this is something that we identified really recently, and it's really what is the culmination of work that we've undertaken from reinterpreting the geophysical data, the radiometrics and the mag data from the Namibian government, but also looking at the data that we had ourselves generated from the rock sampling work that was done on the surface mapping work, but also the drilling intersections that we've logged as well through our own exploration. What it's demonstrated for us is that we've got this significant corridor which runs for approximately 15 kilometres of strike within our two licences, to the north 7345 and to the south 8535, and it's approximately 5 kilometres wide. Now, we've got a number of fertile LCT pegmatites in this district, in this corridor, that still remain untested by drilling from the company. And one of the pegmatites in particular that we've identified in the field that we've just finished mapping and sampling runs for approximately 2 kilometres, outcropping, as well as looking at further along strike where it subcrops and outcrops again. So the plan for the company is to execute a 5,000 metre trenching campaign across that single pegmatite body. That work will be started in the next 2 weeks, and it will probably take the better part of perhaps 2 months to actually finish off that trenching campaign. From there, obviously we'll get a really good understanding of the dip and strike orientation of the pegmatite, but more important than that, we'll actually get a very good understanding for the grade nature of the mineralisation along strike. As I indicated, that pegmatite in particular is very spodumene rich. It does have traces of petalite as you'd expect, but from an XRD perspective, the work that we've undertaken, it is definitely spodumene as a primary lithium mineral. The other point to note on that map in particular is spodumene hill, or what used to be known as B1C1. So recent drill results were released from that licence, which is of course along strike of our main corridor of interest in our 2 licences. Intersections sort of up to 2% Li2O with corresponding high-grade tin and tantalum were intersected in those drills. The pegmatite that I mentioned earlier about that we're going to start trenching is running in that same strike direction. It's part of the same body of pegmatite, so we would expect to encounter the same, if not better, grades of mineralisation in our drilling and trenching campaigns, which will get underway in the next couple of weeks. There's a photo of our team that's on site. Gives you a bit of an idea for I suppose, the arid nature of the region in which we're operating. Weiss is, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it properly, but I know the direct derivation is salty water, and it's an area that's characterised by not a lot of rainfall, unfortunately, but where we do operate, the community is definitely at the heartbeat of everything that we do. We can be proud to say that we are an almost exclusive local Namibian employer as well, except for some of our key management people are not they're South African based, but our local team in Namibia are all locals from the Weiss and surrounding area. One of the other things that we do as a company, and this is something you heard from our other presenters as well, is just the importance of course, supporting the local communities. So one of the things that we did earlier this year is we sponsored the soccer tournament, which was a great sort of opportunity just to lift awareness for our company, but also brought communities not just from Weiss, but it also brought together people from other communities in the surrounding regions to really sort of give them something to look forward to as well. As I mentioned, it's a primary LCT spodumene-rich pegmatite that we're chasing. I've suggested they've done 2 phases of drilling at 7345 and 1 at 8535. We've also collected more than 750 rock samples from the work that we've done. The next phase of work, as I mentioned, is 5,000 metre trenching campaign along that main pegmatite structure, 2 kilometres outcropping, but we're also doing a 6,000 point soil sampling survey across those concealed zones in between the areas that outcrop, particularly on the southern licence at 8535. These are the achievements and the outlook that, as a company, being relatively new as an entrant into Namibia, what we've actually been able to achieve in the short time frame. It is testament to, of course, building a strong team in country, but also having the right partners involved, not only at project level, but also at the corporate level as well. One of the things that we say comfortably to parties that we deal with is that we as a company have a very aggressive mandate from an exploration strategy perspective, but also from an acquisition viewpoint. So one of the things that we've been very mindful of in terms of just capitalising on what we call early mover advantage into the Weiss Cape Cross pegmatite belt is that we like to identify areas of interest and grow our footprint strategically quite quickly, and then really get down to 101 geology and exploration and just prove the resources and drill out and create resource definition and discovery, really unlocking the true value potential of the region. One of the things that I did want to mention as well, just in closing just quickly, is the value of strategic partnerships. So in May this year, Askari welcomed Huayu Cobalt to our register as a 6% shareholder. They've also got a framework agreement put in place to invest a further, further tranche of financing. Our project does remain unencumbered from an offtake perspective, so we've got plenty of room to move in terms of future financing strategies. The Huayu Cobalt team, we had them on site 2 weeks ago, took them to the pegmatites, which we'll start to mobilise the excavator on and commence trenching. They definitely walked away very happy with their investment. We like the idea of them sort of forging and retaining that strategic relationship with our company going forward as well. Obviously, they must be the third largest lithium chemicals producer within China, but globally they've got a tremendous track record and relationship for delivering projects on time and on budget, having only just recently acquired the Arcadia lithium mine in Zimbabwe as well. So we're in good company, we've got the right strategic partners, we're definitely in the right jurisdiction, that being Namibia, and we're definitely exploring for the right commodity, a commodity that takes no introductions. Everybody understands it's thematic towards lithium and the decarbonisation of that electrification revolution. Certainly from our perspective, we are looking to maximise our exposure, and we're very excited by what we've been able to achieve to date, and certainly by what we're going to be able to achieve in the closing months towards the end of the year as well. Just a quick one on the team. So I've introduced our board already, so there's no need to dwell there, but certainly from an in-country perspective, we have spent considerable time, as I mentioned earlier, really building a strong in-country team, making sure we've got good presence on the ground, but also having the right connections at the MME and at all levels of the government departments as well. So that's something that we definitely take serious, and it remains a key ingredient to our success as well. And yeah, thank you very much. That's Askari.